We've got Chris Swanson on the line from Trojan Sports. Please join him there for the best in USC football coverage, with the Trojans coming off a huge win over Stanford and another brand name game, we'll call it, against Texas as we look back to 11 years and the Vince Young National Championship game against a favored USC team in the big upset at the Rose Bowl to win it and end the USC dynasty in certain respects. This Texas team, much different, coming off sure, San Jose State, they win that game 56-0. But if you look back to the opener, Maryland comes in, lowly regarded, probably one of the 3 or 4 worst teams in the Big Ten, expected, and then they score 51 against Texas. So, Chris, you got a Texas team. They've recruited well in the recruiting rankings, so there's talent on the roster. But, man, they just continue to be in disarray, at least against decent opponents. We can't gather a whole lot from last week, although they certainly put the foot down on San Jose State. So here comes Texas, and what can possibly be expected this week?
Yeah, I think that it's Texas, but it's not Texas. It's not the Texas that everybody thinks about when they think of college football history. I think that USC is getting Texas at the right time. I think this is going to be like one of those games where, Notre Dame is down and USC handles them, or another big name program is down and gets handled. I just think USC is on a completely different level than Texas right now, and a completely different universe even. They gave up 50 points to Maryland. I think USC is going to be able to score at will on Texas, and I think USC's defense is good enough to contain Texas's offense, and really I think USC is going to run away with this game. It's at the Coliseum as well. I think that's huge for them. If they're playing in Austin, in that stadium, I know that's a big-time atmosphere. Maybe I could see something different. Maybe I could see it being closer, potential upset or something. I don't think it's going to happen. I think USC is a national title contending team this year. I think that they're going to contend for a playoff spot. They're going to contend to win the Pac-12. They're going to contend for all these special things. I think Texas is trying to rebuild and is hoping to, get to some sort of bowl game, or maybe, be better than terrible. Maybe their goal is to, not lose 5 games this year. They're just in different places. So I think USC is just going to absolutely have their way with Texas.
Shane Buechele, the starting quarterback there at Texas at the beginning of the season after a decent 2016, but they handed things over to true freshman Sam Ehlinger against San Jose State. He performed well. Again, inferior competition there against the Spartans. Chris Warren, pretty exceptional running back, ran for 166 in that game, but talent on the roster, as we mentioned off the top, because they've recruited pretty well. Charlie Strong now, Tom Herman. But, it's just a team in disarray at this point. I think Tom Herman's going to clean things up, and better things lie ahead. But I know I checked out some of the Maryland game, and you just saw the typical Texas of recent years, of 3 consecutive losing seasons, of blown coverages and missed tackles and just mistakes and penalties at the wrong time. So things need to be cleaned up there for Texas, and I would expect USC. I don't know if you can really expect a letdown. It's not a letdown sort of game when you say it's a primetime affair against Texas, but they just did knock off what could be the second best team in the Pac-12. But they'll have to get back up and be ready to go. I don't think they need their A game, but they need a decent effort and can't totally collapse, considering what we saw against Western Michigan, where they were a bit spotty, and it was a tie game about halfway through the fourth quarter. So, Chris, any other thoughts on USC in general, Texas coming up?
I think it's an exciting season now. I think that if you're a USC fan, or if you pay attention to college football on the West Coast, I think USC is the team to watch now. I know a lot of people were predicting that before the year, but the way they handled Stanford, it honestly, I don't think USC's looked that good since 2008. Maybe, potentially a decade. I know they had the big Rose Bowl win. I know they had that year they went, 10-2, finished in the top 5 or whatever. I don't remember them taking a team that I respect the way I respect Stanford, a team that I think is going to potentially be in the top 10, and just absolutely handle them. I don't think the score was even as close as that 42-24. And I think that this could be a potential, very special season for USC. So I didn't feel that way just a game ago, I should say. I thought because of the schedule, they had a chance to go 10-2 and do something special. But I'm looking at this season now, and I really do think that they have a chance to win a national title. And I think that you should definitely be watching and paying attention to USC football if you care about football on the West Coast.
Yeah, combine possibly the best quarterback in college football with an extremely talented roster, with the determination and focus that we saw against Stanford, and it gets pretty serious when talking USC's potential this year. Chris Swanson from Rivals and Trojan Sports joins us to talk USC football with the Stanford win under the belt, the first big one of the season. Texas up ahead of the Coliseum this Saturday. Chris, we appreciate the time.
Thank you so much for having me.